You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla, Kallander, and Andrew Yaggie. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
Welcome to episode 75. Every time I say it, I'm like, 75, 74. I'm excited of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Kallander. I'm a mortgage lender.
I'm Andrew Yaggie. I'm a real estate agent. And hello, Kayla.
Hello. I'm just still shocked that we are we're crushing. We're moving.
Hey, we made it.
Looks like we made it. I know. Every time, wow, we're at 25, we're at 30. And I think we're in the top, 1%, 10% of podcasts. If you make it past, is it 10?
Not by subscribers, but by episodes put together.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right?
I think we're doing better than the new podcast that came out with I think Michelle Obama and her brother. There were a lot of people were talking about.
I haven't heard of that. Tell me more. What's going on with that?
I don't know. They're just kind of talking about life and whatever. And I think she's obviously trying to ride on the presidential coattails and. I don't think the podcast is going very well.
Got you. I'm going to have to listen. I don't know if I should listen in and give them credit, but we'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure. So what's going on in Kayla's world? And I guess, first of all, did you have a good Easter?
I did have a good Easter. We went to the lake and it was quiet, except one of our dogs had to go back to Fargo to the ER vet. So it was a little chaotic for a little bit. He had a little gland issue. I'll leave it at that.
Too bad. I think I saw some pictures online. It looked like everyone had their bunny ears. How do the dogs do when you're dressing them up? And
they're fine. They kind of just freeze. They're but they know they get treats after, so they're good sports. But yeah, we went out there, made a trip back to Fargo late that night, but went back, had Taryn's mom over. We made dinner, had mimosas. It was just very chill. And then we came back Sunday. So it was a very relaxing weekend. But what about you guys? You got kids, so I'm sure it was very exciting.
Yeah, it was. So we stuck away, actually, a quick little trip to Las Vegas for a friend's 40th birthday party. We just stayed a couple of the days. Everybody else stayed a little bit longer, but did that and back the day before Easter. And yeah, just got together with my side of the family. So we were up in Thief River Falls and all the cousins got to kind of hang out and play, went to church, ate way too much food and came home and just started another week.
I love it. Do you ever see Tammy Hampson? Do you ever see her up there on holidays?
I don't really. We don't really go out very much when we're up there just because there's family stuff going on. We went to church, so saw some old classmates, neighbors, and friends.
Love it.
Around the area. It's always kind of fun to do because we don't. I'm sure you don't make it to Walhalla very much, and I don't make it to Thief River Falls very often either.
No, and now that my family doesn't live in Walhalla anymore, they're in Pembina, which is 30, 40 minutes away. We just never get up to Walhalla, but when we do, it's very nostalgic. So yeah. Sure. But I was up in Pembina just recently. I had a closing for people that knew my dad when he was alive and know my mom and my family. So it's just fun to go up there and just, see people. I saw someone from high school I hadn't seen in 20 years. What? It's just crazy how time flies, but it's always good to go home.
Yeah, it always is. And just, the world doesn't stop turning. And even I saw an old classmate at elementary. Well, I guess we weren't classmates all the way through because he went to another nearby school, but elementary classmate. And they kind of moved to Thief River Falls the same year that we did. And I saw him and I haven't seen him in, probably since graduation. Although ironically, when I was on a trip flying to Bismarck a couple of months ago, I ran into his sister and dad just out at a diner where we were having lunch. So it's wow, I see you guys. Now you guys are back. So yeah, you never know who you're going to run into, which always makes it fun, Kayla.
It does. It's just you pick up where you left off, and I love it. But and kids had a good Easter. Did you guys do an egg hunt, anything like that? You guys go crazy?
Yeah, everyone had a good time for the most part. I wish I should have got some pictures ready. I've got one of my brothers, Aaron, kind of likes to terrorize the kids with a big bunny mask kind of head.
Bunny's scary. It's scary.
Most of the kids are good with it, except Ivy, our 2-year-old. She was not okay with it.
Tell Ivy, she and I are the same because that is scary stuff.
Yeah, no, everything was really great, and hey, really good to kind of get over the hump. It was actually kind of fun driving home from Easter, driving south and just seeing all of the activity out in the fields, and obviously there's some farm background with your family, and obviously same with my family. So kind of fun to see everybody out in the field, the dirt flying, and kind of a shadow weather as well.
Yeah, it is. It's that time of year, when Easter comes, I feel like it starts to warm up. Like sometimes it's freezing on Easter, sometimes it's warm, but I mean, we're starting to see things pick up. We see like our neighbors out with their dogs. Like it's like people are coming to life. And there's buzz in the air with real estate. And yeah, it's just like the whole world comes alive because we've been cooped up in our houses all winter.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So speaking of everything coming alive, Kayla, are you seeing more life in the real estate market, or are you seeing just people shopping and kind of talking?
I'm seeing a little bit of both. We've got clients that literally, Andy, they knew first-time home buyers. We talked briefly last week on a discovery call. They applied Friday. They weren't approved. They weren't pre-approved yet, but they went shopping. Found a house, wanted to make an offer before they were pre-approved, made an offer. We got them pre-approved essentially kind of the same day, and they got the house. Like that is wild because some of these people truly take, some of them, years. And so I'm seeing a little bit of both. The people that are kind of waiting and they're shopping and they're talking, not taking action, and then some that are just leaping right in. So it's kind of a mixed bag. But what are you witnessing on your side?
Yeah, I would kind of say feast or famine, Kayla. I mean, we've had, and I think we talked about it last week. I had a lake, we've got quite a bit of lakeshore listed and putting some more on the market today. We put 3 single family homes on the market yesterday, some new builds that are kind of income qualified in the Pelican Rapids, Minnesota area. So that's going to be a fun project to work kind of with the county EDA on. But we're seeing some that are not getting a lot of activity, and then some that are just leaping off the shelf, and kind of the same with some single family properties. Kayla, I saw a lake property kind of over the weekend where the individuals bought it in December, and I think they paid like $1.25 million for it, and they just relisted it because it looks like there was a change of circumstance, and they had to head somewhere else. And that particular home came back on the market at 1,475, and I thought, no way, no.
What?
They're really fishing. It sold right away, Kayla.
Wow, so, I mean,
just absolutely crazy. I had a lake property that I sold a couple of years ago. That gorgeous property, Ottertail Lake, had a lot of deferred maintenance and an enormous deck that was rotting. The yard was not very kept, so it sold for right under $1 million. The people that bought it, they really fixed it up, really made it, kind of restored it to the showpiece that it was. Listed it at 145, sold right away. Wow. So people that are really serious and they're ready to go and they're well positioned, they're out there, they're making deals. But a lot of people are kind of sitting and kind of wondering, hey, also what's going on, market economy. I've had some people that, hey, they were really ready to sell and ready to buy and downsize, and boy, we don't like what our portfolio looks like, and so we're gonna hang tight a little bit. Now, will they revisit it by the end of the year? I guess that remains to be seen.
Well, and I'm seeing multiple offers still now. I mean, I just had a client get an accepted offer on a lake property. And, I think back to when Taryn and I were looking at lake property back in 21, Andy, like they were flying off the market. Like we're talking 50, 100,000 over asking. And so I'm not seeing it as crazy as that, thank goodness. But you think about, you're not, some of these people are willing to spend 50, 100,000 over asking. But when it comes to the interest rate, it seems like it's a more touchy topic because you're still spending money. Which way are you spending it? But I'm still seeing multiple offers. I'm still seeing feast or famine. I did have recently an FHA offer on a home contingent on the sale of their home accepted. Like, wow. No problem. And usually you don't see that because for some reason people are very nervous about FHA offers, even though if a house is in good shape, there's really nothing to be concerned about. Sometimes we put people in FHA just because they can get a better rate and a better payment based on their profile. But I mean, I'm just seeing it all over the board. So Yeah.
Well, and I think especially in your market, I mean, there's so much new construction. I mean, look
Yeah.
at the mutual client that we have that's going to be closing in about a month from now. Which, speaking of, I maybe hopefully we'll get to see you in person, maybe about a
Yeah,
month from now
let's go.
versus
Yes.
just virtually. But I look at that house, and I mean, I think the builder had it done in like August, and it's sat now, so they're having to carry it for 9 months. So I think, there are probably some deals to be had even on new construction. Even, we talked last time or the episode before about kind of the Horace special assessment debacle and all of that and all of the pressure and just seeing what some of the builders are having to do in terms of giving, concessions. I saw one builder giving $25,000, kind of as a bonus concession to buyers in order to move the properties. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting market.
And a lot of volatility too, with rates, with people's investments, taking a hit. Like there's a lot of uncertainty, but I'm also seeing people that are like, I know what I want and I'm going to go do it. So, I mean, yeah, we're seeing a bit of
right on. Kayla, I want to circle back for just a moment. You just talked a couple of minutes ago about, someone, when we talked about shopping, someone who was kind of shopping, they hadn't gotten pre-approved. They kind of started getting pre-approved. They made an offer and, oh man, all of a sudden we really had to get them pre-approved. And, obviously you're here to serve the clients, just as I'm here to serve the clients, but obviously there are some frustrations when it's like, hey, I've got to drop everything, to basically, jump in and help these people reach their goals. And it kind of ties in. I saw it just this morning when I was kind of scrolling a little bit, kind of the post that you had done. I think you just did it last night, where it talks about the adult version of doing your homework earlier than the night before it's due. And maybe some of that prompted this about you talking about it, because again, some people think pre-approval means you're buying a house tomorrow. No, not unless you're a Kardashian with cash in hand and zero chill. Pre-approval is like stretching before a marathon. You're not at the finish line. You're just making sure you don't pull a hamstring when your dream home hits the market. Is peace of mind. It's a flex. It's the adult version of doing your homework earlier than the night before it's due. So go ahead, get pre-approved. No pressure, no commitment, no blood oath, just a solid head start and someone to guide you. I feel like you could make a children's book or maybe an adult book out of something like this.
Oh my gosh, I should.
Was the night before home shopping and all through the house.
Right?
No one was pre-approved, not even the mouse.
Start them young. Children's book. Listen, I mean, the thing is like, you said it, right, Andy? It's tough, right? Like, I think there's some thought that like lenders just sit in an office all day and wait for people to apply. And the truth is, people like me, we're doing podcasts, we're educating, we're meeting with other clients, we're hopping into, companies and sharing things. We're going to closings. We're structuring loans. We have clients calling. We've got realtors calling. We've got low appraisals. Like it's constantly busy. So although, it is difficult to drop everything, because if you're dropping someone else for that person that's not prepared, it goes beyond that. Because I feel like, and I know, because I've witnessed it firsthand and I witnessed it recently, is the client is shortchanging themselves the experience. And I don't know about other lenders, but if you're working with me, we don't just shoot you off a letter and say, you're good to go, rock and roll. We have a pre-approval meeting, and that can take 30 to 60 minutes. I've had them go longer than that, because we're talking about, here's what you're pre-approved up to. Here's what your budget says if you want to stick to a certain payment, here's actually what you need to be searching for. Here's what special assessments look like in Fargo and West Fargo and Moorhead and Horace. Here are the programs you're pre-approved for. Here's what closing costs look like. Here's your closing cost breakdown. We go line by line, my clients and I don't just say, closing costs are about 2 to 3%. No, we're talking about, here's what you buy and here's what your escrow looks like. And do you know what escrow is? I asked clients yesterday, they've owned a home for 6 years. I said, do you escrow your taxes and insurance and your monthly payment? They had no idea. Their lender didn't tell them. They just make their payment. And so I share this because when you are rushing through this process, you're shortchanging yourself. You're not educated. And then when you're not educated, you're nervous. So you go through all this work of getting pre-approved, and then you don't make an offer because you don't understand it. So that's why I shared that reel, is I'm like, you deserve to have the time. You deserve to get the education. You deserve the time with your lender who's going to share these things with you. And if the lender's not doing that, then you need to come see me. But that's why I share that, is because I want the client to have the best experience, Andy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I really like that, and I run into a lot of the same things, and yeah, clients kind of think that, hey, we are sitting around as agents, that we're just, we're sitting just waiting for the phone to ring, and hey, we're ready to go look at properties. And the reality is, like my days, like your days, Kayla, are very regimented, are often booked out, many things weeks in advance. And yep, is there some wiggle room?
Yeah.
Do things happen? Actually, yeah, my whole day changed today, and so I have kind of unexpectedly or received a free day yesterday. So now I'm kind of repacking things into it. But same frustrations. I had kind of a friend reach out, and hey, there's nothing more fun than working with friends, family, sphere of influence, or
Yeah.
people that take the time to refer others to you. But I had a friend kind of reach out the other day, and hey, we really want to go look at properties. And we just want to go look at this. It happened to be a listing of mine, and I of course have a duty to show the houses that I have listed. But said, okay, time out. Like, we need to sit down first, and we need to talk. Like, I know you're not pre-approved. You kind of talked to me about the need to sell your house in order to buy, or maybe another piece of property, and that's probably not going to happen till fall. So really, at this point, we're not going to go look at anything. Because why waste the seller's time and inconvenience them and everyone else, even my time? Like, Kayla, I'm not going to drag you along, for the ride if I'm not teed up and ready to go. So, it just is kind of a two-way street.
Well, I think too, it goes back to we want our clients to have a great experience. We want this. It's not that we want people to just slow down, but the truth is you got to kind of slow down and speed up. Because when my clients need me, like on a night or a weekend, to run numbers or to get them an updated letter, I'm Johnny on the spot. But when you're asking me to do a whole pre-approval and you're self-employed and you have rental properties and you're recently divorced and you've got your divorce decree and you've got child support, that kind of thing takes time. And you wouldn't rush a surgeon, and you wouldn't ask a surgeon to meet quickly to do your surgery the next day. So I share this as more of like, what kind of experience do you want? And what kind of result do you want? If you're going to rush an artist, you're going to get a messy painting. Like, it's the same thing. And it's truly just to give people what they deserve.
Right on. Kayla, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk. I found this article on, was trying to get it teed up and ready to go. So from Barron's, they were talking here. I found it on Apple News the other day, where I kind of look for all of my news, where it talked about, in real estate, more homes, fewer buyers, even price cuts, and how the housing market has changed. And so just a little bit ago, you and I talked about how the market is, feast or famine in a sense. And, some properties highly desirable are going quick. A lot are kind of sitting there. And so it's kind of the tale of two markets almost. But I really found this article interesting, where it talked about how inventory across the board is up. And I think in our market, I haven't seen higher inventory really in the 5 years that I've been in the market. So on one hand, that's a really good thing, because it's good for buyers to have opportunities. But on the other hand, those that are selling and, hey, they want to be somewhere, they've been hanging on to that low rate and finally say enough is enough, it's being a little bit challenging. And this talks about how the spring season hasn't been the strong selling season agents and home builders were hoping for. Instead, subtle shifts in the market point to more weakness for sales and softer prices for buyers. What do you think about that, Kayla?
I have mixed feelings about it, because every market is so different, right? Like, if you're buying, even in your area versus Fargo, I still think that, despite inventory, if you have a motivated buyer, I have one right now, like he needs a house and he found the house. It's kind of like you're going to have some picky buyers sometimes that are going to just keep saying no. So even despite inventory, I feel like you'll have challenges depending on the buyer. But I think regardless, if you've got a motivated buyer that sees that owning is much more precious than renting, it may not matter. But in Fargo, I do see, I've got some clients that are like frustrated. But again, we've got new construction, so they can, get a new home, but then you got the specials. But I feel like it just kind of depends on the kind of clients you have. When I read an article like that, like, inventory is important for sure. But I think that our inventory is a little bit kind of kept because there isn't as much inventory, I should say, because those people are still holding on to those 275 rates. I talked to clients last night and they're like, I can't believe I'm going from 275 to 6.5. I can't believe it. And we had to educate them on, but look at the equity you've created, but look at how much you're going to get for your house. And until you tell someone that, sometimes that focus on inventory is kind of, the only thing they focus on. Sometimes that rate is, but I'm kind of talking in circles about it. But I guess inventory, just to me, I don't see it impacting the clients as much if they're motivated.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it did talk, we'll talk about, kind of 3 points the article makes, but, just talking about, at first glance, looking at the market, there are a lot of similarities to last year, this spring, prices are so high. And I have some people that say, hey, I'm going to wait, prices have to come down. The market's going to crash. Is it going to happen? No, probably not. But prices are still high. Homes generally continue to appreciate unless you're in some of the larger markets like Austin, Texas, for instance. It's come down a little bit in some other major metros. Mortgage rates, of course, remain above 6%. And we've seen a lot of rapid swings here recently. Yeah. And so those could create for a challenging market. Not only that, Kayla, but it talks about the fact that buyers are more fearful. Some individuals, they're kind of looking at the overall economic picture and they're putting things on hold. People are antsy about, hey, what if I lose my job? I'm not going to,
that's true.
So that's a concern. I didn't realize this, Kayla, but it talked about how adjustable rate mortgages are back. Talk about that. Has anyone been doing an ARM, or have you seen any activity?
Not on my end. In fact, I had a call with a client yesterday and we're putting him in an ARM because that's the only product he qualifies for. And he was very upset about it. He was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't do that. Like very, very concerned, rightfully so. I get it. But anytime I've talked about an ARM lately, there's been a lot of pushback with some. Others, if they know they're going to move, if they know, they're not going to have the house, it's no big deal. But I have other clients that are locking them like, let's go. I want to save some money. And I think rates are going to come down. I've seen such polar opposite responses. First International, we've got some adjustable rate mortgages that we offer that are great products on our portfolio that are awesome, but there's still some hesitancy with some people. So others, they're like, lock it up, let's go. Have you seen any clients? I suppose you don't necessarily see that for sure.
As far as I don't get too intimately involved with the pre-approval process. Of course, I do know the product that the buyer is using. I've seen no talk of ARMs. I've seen no one been in it. I see, of course, it looks like, one benefit could be that, it can save borrowers cash significantly, maybe on the front end, but at the expense of, some potential volatility later.
Well, and the thing is too, is I think people are like, well, if they go to 20%, if you look at history, in no time have rates gone up 15%, 14% in, 3 years, but there's still that uncertainty. So,
yeah. Well, one of the final points this article makes is just that, hey, sellers are trimming prices. So, listings are headed higher as homes for sale spend more time on the market than usual this time of year. So, again, those who are buying are probably going to have more choices and may be able to get a better deal.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. So this talks about nationwide, there are about 1.15 million homes on the market, Kayla, in March, up 19% from last year, and the most for any March since 2020, according to Zillow. There were also more price cuts. The company reported about 24% of listings reduced their prices, the most of any March since 2018. So I think if you look at that, that's huge. Zillow goes on and talks about home values will drop 1.9% this year. I don't see that in our market. I'm not sure about Fargo, maybe with the new construction, maybe not. I mean, it's growing rapidly. So again, the combination of rising available listings and elevated mortgage rates is signaling potential price drops by year end. So it's going to be really kind of interesting to see, Kayla.
Yeah. And I think too, I think we're a little bit sheltered. We're a little bit more protected here. And, I feel like it's not as risky. And every time I'm helping a client that's going to sell their home and they're going to buy new, they're going to sell and use the proceeds. I mean, every time I'm like, wow, look at that equity, look at what you've done. And I just had a client that bought a little over a year ago, and their home was right around 370 when they bought it. It was new construction, and it appraised recently. So in like, I want to say like 16 months ish, it appraised for about 25,000 more. So it's like, it's amazing what we see here, but you know, the future will tell.
Yeah, it really will. Kayla, I think one factor that, is coming into play here and kind of ties into another article that I found talking about, are we all living beyond our means now?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Sorry.
So I know frequently, from a pre-approval standpoint, you and I have talked about it, and it's not uncommon to see a lot of consumer debt, a ton of automobile debt. So you would agree with this article?
100%. I mean, not everybody. I mean, some clients have no debt and they're doing great. But what I see, Andy, is significant. And it's not necessarily the client's fault. It's just circumstances, but lots and lots of debt.
Well, this article really talks about the fact that, a lot of individuals out there who, many of them have student loan debt, or again, you talk about circumstance, maybe medical debt or something like that. But just talking about, the COVID pandemic, how obviously there was some pretty significant government stimulus that really helped fuel, the economy, and the fact that everyone kind of adopted the YOLO, mindset, where, hey, I'm going to go live, I'm going to go and, live life, and, I'm going to worry about it later.
YOLO.
And this goes on to talk about that in the article, Kayla, that there's an idea entered into internet canon by multimillionaire circa 2017 that millennials have sacrificed any possibility of future home ownership on the altar of avocados.
What does that mean?
So it basically means that, we can't control. It talks about our discretionary spending, so we'll never know the stability enjoyed by our boomer parents. And I think just talking about a lot of people, they go out and they spend on a lot of natural health, a lot of, we love our Whole Foods if we have that in our market or whatever it is. And again, it talks about the fact that the younger generations are more likely to work multiple jobs, not because they have, kind of an innate love for entrepreneurship, Kayla, but just the fact that, hey, we have kind of a grim economic reality.
Well, and I think too, the 2020 era brought on a lot of people that decided to become like self-employed or try something. They're like, I'm not, going to go in or not deal with it. And I think some of those businesses succeeded, some did not. And so you're seeing I'm seeing a lot of people with multiple jobs, like from traveling nurses. So I've got nurses that have all these different jobs to, hey, I'm doing my side hustle and I'm working part-time. And the reality is we can't use that income unless you have a 2-year history. So we're seeing a lot of just kind of mixy swirly of income for sure. I think that article is spot on.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of it too is there were a lot of individuals and, who maybe they made bad college decisions, ended up with a lot of debt, not even a degree or not a great degree, where this article even talks about, Kayla, some individuals that they got a degree and they didn't leave college with any debt, but, maybe a matter of timing. And again, maybe not a very marketable individual who, they spent the first, few years of their working life, working odd jobs, side gigs, and life kind of happens. I mean, rent and everything else. It's really expensive.
Yep. And I think that's what's kind of preventing people from saving, preventing people to have a little bit of a down payment, cover closing costs. So they're just kind of stuck, and then their rent continues to go up. So until you can get a control on it, it's a slippery slope for sure.
And I think, the one thing, maybe the point in favor of those individuals out there that are struggling, that are in the younger generation, it talks about, Kayla, that, in closing, our tenure in the workforce has been marked by global crisis after global crisis, recession after recession, layoff after layoff. Acknowledging that pattern, these individuals referenced in the article recommend talking to people about all of the stress, because there is, a lot of stress, but also just kind of, getting out there and, sometimes you've got to change direction. And I think one thing, I think there are a lot of people that they sit out there and they just kind of wait for something to happen too, versus it's like, okay, I need to go out there. Maybe I need to do something different, or, really, make some sacrifice. And that's really tough in our kind of social media designer society today.
Yep. And there's a lot of short-term pain for long-term gain. But I feel like our society has been like, I want it now. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to know discomfort. And they see on social media other people doing it, but they don't see the grit behind it. Social media sometimes doesn't show that. So I think that that's played a part in this next generation coming up, is just assuming people just have it easy because it looks easy.
Great. I like it.
Amen.
That's an important piece, and probably one of my favorite words or concepts. So
Amen.
Anyway, well, I think that's the end of the sermon for today, Kayla.
Sermon.
So,
I love it. Good topics today, Andy.
Yeah, I think some good, some deeper, maybe slightly controversial, and some people that may not like some of what we're talking about or whatever. But hey, we're real.
Yeah, we're real. It's real. Take it or leave it.
Well, Kayla, that wraps up episode 75. Great connecting as always. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
I will if you will.
See ya.
Bye.